has raised questions about certain school policies. So, in the interest of creating an open dialogue, sit silently and watch this film.
Nothing beats a stroll in cattle country. Hi, I'm Troy McClure. You may remember me from such educational films as 2 minus 3 equals negative fun and Firecrackers, the Silent Killer.
Mr. McClure?
Oh, hello, Bobby.
Jimmy, I'm curious as to how meat gets from the ranch to my stomach.
Whoa. Slow down, Jimmy. You just asked a mouthful. It all starts here in the high-density feedlot. Then when the cattle are just right, it's time for them to graduate from Bovine University. Come on, Jimmy. Let's take a peek at the killing floor. Don't let the name throw you, Jimmy. It's not really a floor. It's more of a steel grating that allows material to sluice through so it can be collected and exported. Getting hungry, Jimmy?
Mr. McClure, I have a crazy friend who says it's wrong to eat meat. Is he crazy?
No, just ignorant. You see, your crazy friend never heard of the food chain. Just ask this scientician. He'll tell you that in nature, one creature invariably eats another to survive. Don't kid yourself, Jimmy. If a cow ever got the chance, he'd eat you and everyone you care about.
Wow, Mr. McClure, I was a grade A moron to ever question eating meat.
Yes, you were, Jimmy. Yes, you were.
You're hurting me.
They can't seriously expect us to swallow that tripe.
Now, as a special treat courtesy of our friends at the Meat Council, please help yourselves to this tripe.
Stop it! Don't you realize you've just been brainwashed by corporate propaganda?
Apparently my crazy friend here hasn't heard of the food chain. Yeah, Lisa's a grade A moron.
When I grow up, I'm going to Bovine University.
Hi, I'm Troy McClure, and you might remember me from such self-help videos as Your New Life Starts When You Get Up Off the Couch, and Read the Instructions, Stupid. Oh, Troy McClure, how he made me laugh back in the day. All right, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another class exploration, if you will, with Mr. Smith. And no, today's exploration is not about whether to eat meat or not. It is about how they have found soft tissue in dinosaur bones and the questions that raises. And I played this clip from The Simpsons, a 90s episode of The Simpsons when it was the best, because they are putting a sense of humor on the brainwashing that happens and in everywhere. Let's put it that way. Brainwashing from everywhere. Academia, corporations, government, you name it. We'll just say the powers that be. Anyway, but let's get started. Now, this is actually old news, but a lot of people don't know this. So let's bring it out. Okay, so let's read this article. This is from July of 2014. It says, lawsuit. CSUN scientists fired after soft tissue found on dinosaur fossil. And this is an article that was CBS Los Angeles, so mainstream news, right? It's from CBS. Okay, and CSUN, C-S-U-N, if you don't know, stands for Cal State, California State University, Northridge. And Northridge, if you don't know, is a neighborhood in Los Angeles in the Valley area. I know that neighborhood very well. Anyway, so let's read what it says. It says, attorneys for a California State University Northridge scientist who was terminated from his job after discovering soft tissue on a Triceratops fossil have filed a lawsuit against the university. While at the Hell Creek Formation excavation site in Montana, researcher Mark Armitage discovered what he believed to be the largest Triceratops horn ever unearthed at the site, according to his attorney Brad Dacus of Pacific Justice Institute. Upon examination of the horn under a high-powered microscope back at CSUN, Dacus says Armitage was fascinated to find soft tissue on the sample. A discovery, Backus said, stunned members of the school's biology department and even some students, quote, because it indicates that dinosaurs roamed the earth only thousands of years in the past rather than going extinct 60 million years ago. All right, let's stop there for a second, just to make sure everybody's on the same page. Soft tissue would be like blood, skin, protein sequences, which are just carbon-based sequences, which break down over time. They decompose, and they go back to the ground whence they came. So, by finding soft tissue on dinosaur bones, that pretty much negates the belief that dinosaurs lived 60 million became extinct 60 million years ago. I think 60 million years is enough to decay soft tissue. Right? The Egyptians, which lived, 4,000 years ago, they can't even keep their mummies, the people they mummified, from losing their soft tissue. So, very interesting, just this discovery. And actually, as I delved into this further, as early as, from what I could find, as 2005, they were discovering soft tissue on dinosaur bones. But of course, they don't bring that up in your high school biology classes or in colleges. You might have an individual teacher that does that, but not in the textbooks. Oh no, they're not going to rewrite the textbooks as new information comes in. They can't have true science being done. Anyway, let's read on. Quote, since some creationists like Armitage believe that the Triceratops bones are only 4,000 years old at most, Armitage's work vindicated his view that these dinosaurs roamed the planet relatively recently. According to the complaint filed July 22nd in Los Angeles Superior Court, I find it interesting that they make sure they let you know that he's a creationist. You know, and that's a broad brush. Just because somebody believes in a creator doesn't mean they have to believe that dinosaurs didn't live 60 million years ago. I used to believe in evolution, and I used to believe also in a creator when I was young. And I believe that the creator just kind of set things in motion and allowed it just to evolve over millions of years. You know, I found out as I got older that no, there's no there's no evidence that, you know, there were these beings called dinosaurs living 60 million years ago. Okay, that's all. Yeah, well, we'll just leave that up to you guys to decide at the moment. Let's read on. Armitage's findings were eventually published in July 2013 in a peer-reviewed scientific journal. Okay, they don't tell you what peer-reviewed scientific journal. I find that interesting. According to court documents, shortly after the original soft tissue discovery, a CSUN official told Armitage, "We are not going to tolerate your religion in this department." What religion is that? They don't specify it. Now, the Bible says that there were giants created using DNA experimentation about 4,000 years ago, and they were destroyed in the Great Flood. So they don't mention this in here. I find that interesting. So this guy, if this guy Armitage believes that dinosaur bones are only 4,000 years old, and it looks like the evidence is supporting his claim, he's probably into the Bible, but they don't mention it here. I just find that interesting. Anyway, let's continue. Armitage, a published scientist of over 30 years, was subsequently let go after CSUN abruptly claimed his appointment at the University of 38 months had been temporary. What's 38 months? That's 12, 20, about 3.5 years? Okay. And claimed a lack of funding for his position. Of course, they're not going to fund his position anymore because he's exposing truth. Quote, terminating an employee because of their religious views is completely inappropriate and illegal. Okay, you notice how they're pointing at his religious views instead of looking at the fact that he found soft tissue on dinosaur bones. See, real science, you just look at the facts. And they're swaying you away from the fact here in this article. Now, he found soft tissue on dinosaur bones, which completely negates the 60 million years ago theory on dinosaurs. But they're still looking at his religious views. Hey, an atheist could have found soft tissue on dinosaur bones and said, wait a minute. 60 million years ago? Probably not. Doesn't matter what your religious views are, the facts are the facts. Let's continue. Quote, but doing so in an attempt to silence scientific research at a public university is even more alarming. This should be a wake-up call and warning to the entire world of academia. Well, that's absolutely true. All right? You guys that have listened to my previous videos know that I'm pretty hard on college and academia. They're not teaching you the truth in those places, necessarily. I'm sure there is some truth. There were some classes I took that, like some of the chemistry classes that were technical classes. You could actually apply that, but when you get higher level, you get a lot of foo-foo stuff that just doesn't make a lot of sense. Anyway, I'll stay on topic here. All right, CSUN spokesperson Carmen Ramos Chandler told CBS LA Armitage was a temporary hire between 2010 and 2013 and worked as an electron microscopy technician. She could not comment on the lawsuit as university official had not yet received the complaint. The discovery is the latest in several recent and controversial. There's really nothing controversial about it. The fact is the fact. There's soft tissue on dinosaur bones. But of course they're going to make it controversial. The discovery is the latest in several recent and controversial soft tissue finds by archaeologists. So this is not the only guy. Researchers last November claimed the controversial discovery of purported 68 million year old soft tissue from the bones of a Tyrannosaurus rex can be explained by iron in a dinosaur's body, which they say preserved the tissue before it could decay.
Just ask this scientician. He'll tell you.
I got news for you. Human bodies have iron in the body. You can look at a skeleton that's been buried for 100 years and 200 years. You ain't seen no soft tissue on that. Well, maybe a little bit. But that's the article. Okay, so this guy gets fired, and that was 2014. Now, turns out I did some research, and you might want to check out a YouTube channel. Quote is called Is Genesis History? Unquote. Is Genesis History? And they have a channel about this soft tissue stuff. I mean, they have a video, and it pretty much seals the deal that these dinosaur bones aren't millions and millions of years old. And however, though, that's the narrative that the powers that be want to push. They want you to believe that, in this evolution from one-celled organisms all the way up to human beings over millions of years, and they don't want you to question it. Now, I believe in true science, where you look at the facts, you put your ego aside. A scientist has to accept that maybe what they believed for 30 years of their career is not true. You have to just accept it's not true and humble yourself and say, you know what? I was wrong. If you're a true man of science. And I also find, they're not gonna put this in textbooks. Let's look at this next article. This is from History Stories, like the History Channel. Okay. I'm not going to read all of this, but it says scientist and soft tissue in 75 million year old dinosaur bones. Did I read that right? Scientists find soft tissue. Okay, now that the 66 million years, 75 million years, that's another thing about the carbon dating that they use. It's just not accurate. Okay, but they're claiming 75 million year old dinosaur bones in a pile of unpromising dinosaur fossils dug up in Canada a century ago. British scientists find soft tissue materials preserved for some 75 million years. And it starts off by saying, unlike bones and teeth, which can survive for hundreds of millions of years, soft tissues are among the first materials to disappear during the fossilization process. Even so, scientists have found intact soft tissue in dinosaur bones before. The most famous case dates to 2005, when Mary Schweitzer of North Carolina State University found collagen fibers in the fossilized leg bone of a Tyrannosaurus rex. I'm not going to read all of this. You can read it. It's History Stories on the History Channel. I'm going to highlight here, right? As Susanna Maidment, an imperial paleontologist, I love how the British, and no disrespect to the British, right? Imperial paleontologist, that's what they say. Anyway, Susanna Maidment, let's just put it this way. But it says the fossils Maidment is referring to were uncovered in Canada a century ago and eventually ended up in London's Natural History Museum. They included a claw from a carnivorous theropod, a toe bone resembling that of a triceratops, and several limb and ankle bones of a duck-billed dinosaur. In order to find fresh, uncontaminated surfaces of the bones to examine, scientists broke tiny pieces of the fragmented fossils. When Sergio Bertazzo, a material scientist at Imperial and Maidment's co-lead researcher on the study, looked at the specimens using an electron microscope, he was shocked at what he saw. One morning I turned on the microscope, increased the magnification, and thought, wait, that looks like blood. Bertazzo told The Guardian, recounting his examination of the theropod claw. After finding what looked like red blood cells in two of the fossils, the researchers explored the possibility that the blood might be the result of historical contamination. Okay, so you see how they just don't want to even look at the fact that maybe they were wrong about this millions of years old. They're looking. It's like, you talk to somebody that doesn't want to hear truth, and they're looking for any way around it. Anyway, so there's okay, let's read on. It says, for example, a curator or collector might have had a cut when they handled the specimen, but when they sliced through one of the red blood cells, they saw what looked like a nucleus. Okay, so they're basically saying that the blood they found in these 100-year-old bones that they dug up might have been a curator's blood, human blood, that actually got in there. Do you know they wear those gloves and stuff? That's like 1 in a zillion chance that that's possible. Let's read down here. I'm not going to read all this. Finally, the new findings raise a tantalizing possibility. If collagen and red blood cells can survive for 75 million years, couldn't dinosaur DNA, even in fragments, also have survived? Okay, so they're assuming. They're not even questioning the 75 million years old theory. They're just assuming, oh, well, now collagen and red blood cells survive 75 million years. You see how they do this? They're tricking the reader into just assuming that dinosaur bones are 60, 70, 75 million years old. Don't question it. Right? And get this. If collagen and red blood cells can survive for 75 million years, couldn't dinosaur DNA, even in fragments, also have survived? Could scientists use that genetic code to resurrect the dinosaurs, Jurassic World style? It's interesting how they, you're reading this, and now they get, they sway you away from the facts. That it's 1 in a zillion chance that any of this soft tissue survives 75 million years. They sway you into this fantasy world of making dinosaurs again using their DNA, which might actually not be a fantasy world. They might be able to do that. I don't know, but you get my drift. Let's read this. This is from February of 2020. Berkeley Lab helps reveal how dinosaur blood vessels can preserve through the ages. So now they're telling you in 2020 that they found the reason why this soft tissue has survived millions of years. They still are not going to accept the truth here. But let's read on. A team of scientists led by Elizabeth Boatman at the University of Wisconsin Stout used infrared and X-ray imaging and spectromicroscopy performed at Berkeley Lab's Advanced Light Source to demonstrate. Notice how they use all these big words? Blah, 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 blah. Okay? But they used all this expensive equipment, right? And super techie stuff, right? Tech. Always got to use tech. To demonstrate how soft tissue structures may be preserved in dinosaur bones, countering the long-standing scientific dogma that protein-based body parts cannot survive more than 1 million years. See how they're turning it around? Now they're telling you, oh, yeah, science, it's just, it's crazy how they do this, right? They're telling you that, oh, it's just accepted as fact that protein-based body parts break down and cannot survive more than 1 million years. So we're going to break barriers, okay? How about the fact that you found soft tissue on dinosaur bones, and you can show just by digging up bones from somebody that died 100 years ago that this soft tissue has not survived that long. In their paper, now published in Scientific Reports, the team analyzed a sample from a 66 million year old Tyrannosaurus rex tibia. See how they do that? They're not, that 66 million year old, that's an assumption. They don't know that that Tyrannosaurus rex tibia is 66 million years old. But again, they're programming us into believing that that's just fact. That these dinosaurs lived millions and millions of years ago, 66 million years ago, and we're going to explain why there's soft tissue on those bones using that assumption. So Mr. Scientist says,
Just ask this scientician. He'll tell you.
this is from, I don't know, just says Berkeley Lab helps reveal how dinosaur blood vessels can preserve through the ages. It's a news release, Alaya Kovner, February 14th, 2020. And this one here, controversial T-Rex tissue find finally, this is from www.livescience.com. Controversial T-Rex soft tissue find finally explained, and this is 2014. They say the controversial discovery of a 68 million year old soft tissue from the bones of a Tyrannosaurus rex finally has a physical explanation. Finally. Of course, that explanation wouldn't be that these bones are only 4,000 or 5,000 years old. The research headed by Mary Schweitzer, okay, keep that name in mind, a molecular paleontologist, whatever that is, at North Carolina State University, explains how proteins and possibly even DNA can survive millennia. Schweitzer and her colleagues first raised this question in 2005 when they found seemingly impossible soft tissue preserved inside the leg of an adolescent T-Rex. An adolescent T-Rex. What if he was rebelling against his parents? Quote, what we found was unusual because it was still soft and still transparent and still flexible. The find was also controversial because scientists had thought proteins that make up soft tissue should degrade in less than 1 million years in best of conditions. In most cases, microbes feast on a dead animal's soft tissue, destroying it within weeks, right? Now, true scientific facts and evidence show us that bacteria are decomposers. They're cleanup crews. They eat dead tissue. So yeah, the bacteria are on it the minute this thing dies. So it says, in most cases, microbes, meaning bacteria, feast on a dead animal's soft tissue, decaying it within weeks. Okay, so there's an exception here with these dinosaur bones. The researchers also analyzed other fossils for the presence of soft tissue and found it was present in about half of their samples, going back to the Jurassic period, which lasted from, right, again, another assumption, the Jurassic period lasted from 145.5 million to 199.6 million years ago. Okay, the obvious question, though, was how soft, pliable tissue could survive for millions of years. Okay, they're asking the wrong question. Maybe their timeline is off. Let's read here. Okay, basically this article talks about how this woman Schweitzer, right, that's her name, Mary Schweitzer, she's explaining that the soft tissue was preserved because of dinosaurs' iron-rich blood combined with a good environment for fossilization may explain the amazing existence of soft tissue. I thought they had never found dinosaur blood up until this point. How do they know it's iron rich? And is it any more iron rich than a female human? Right? You see where we're going with this? This is a bunch of blah. They just don't want to accept the possibility, I'll leave it up to the possibility, that the dinosaurs lived thousands of years ago instead of millions. Let's look at this last article because it's getting a little bit long here. I get it. And this article here, I just want to show you how they start skewing people away from the facts into their emotions. Right? In true science, you should just stick to the facts and the data and be open to being wrong. Anyway, this is, I don't know, this is from www.sciencemag.org, right? And this is from 2017. It says, quote, I don't care what they say about me. Paleontologist stares down critics in her hunt for dinosaur proteins. All right, so already this Mary Schweitzer is defying the male-controlled science of paleontology. And I'm going to show you that in a minute. Okay? Because she's just... she's going to break boundaries, right? They always play this they always play this game, especially with women, to brainwash young females into breaking boundaries. And I'm going to do this. I'm different. Okay, so here we go. Northeastern Montana. The first day of Mary Schweitzer's 2017 dinosaur hunt isn't going well. The team has been searching under the high summer sun without success for the fossil-rich strata that braid through the arid rangeland here. Then towards sundown, the aging Chevy Suburban, in which she and 4 colleagues are riding, erupts in a brief poltergeist-like spectacle. The door locks jumping up and down and multiple dashboard warning lights flashing simultaneously. Finally, the car gives up the ghost and stops completely. Okay. So here we go with her trials and tribulations. She's working so hard. Look, just give us the facts. Just show us the tissue and let's do some work. All right, so I'm not going to read all this blah, 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 but you can read this here. But let's take, look at this. It says, Schweitzer, who came to the field late and whose unusual background cast her as an outsider in a field still dominated by men, isn't cowed. She's so amazing. She's standing up to those evil men. See how they're making this like a feminist thing? A women are oppressed thing. And she's just amazing. They're getting you away from the facts, the data. Mary Schweitzer and her colleagues first removed minerals from fossils such as a hadrosaur femur, leaving organic material behind. Okay, that's cool. So organic material meaning soft tissue. A third-generation Montanan Schweitzer, 62. This woman's 62 years old. What is a woman who's 62 out there digging up bones and hiking in the hot summer sun? Man. So there they go again, promoting these super women. All right. Hey, man, she's 62. She should be chilling, spreading her wisdom to her grandchildren. That's what she's not out digging up bones. She's probably 62. She's a 62-year-old woman. Anyway, grew up outside of Helena as the youngest of 3 children in a conservative Catholic family. Her father, with whom she was very close, died of a heart attack when she was 16, and Schweitzer turned to the fundamentalist Christianity for solace, embedding herself deeply in her new community. She also rejected evolution and adopted the belief that the Earth is only 6,000 years old. After earning an undergraduate degree in audiology, Schweitzer married and had 3 children. She went back to school for an education degree, planning to become a high school science teacher, but then she sat in on a dinosaur lecture given by Jack Horner. Jack Horner, who now retired from the university, who was the model for the paleontologist in the original Jurassic Park movie. After the talk, Schweitzer went up to Horner to ask whether she could audit his class. All right, now she's going over all her history, all her life. It's all about her. Understand? This article is all about her. It's not about the facts. Over the next 6 months, Horner opened Schweitzer's eyes to the overwhelming evidence supporting evolution and Earth's antiquity. Okay. First of all, it's not overwhelming. They're lying to you. I've never met a professor who showed this, who showed me overwhelming evidence. I've never met anybody that has showed me overwhelming evidence that supporting evolution. They always just, well, it's just accepted as fact. It's like germ theory, right? There's not any proof for germ theory, but people just accept it as fact. So she rejected many fundamentalist views after this. All right, so now they're attacking people who believe in the Bible. So you can see where this is going. In 2005, Schweitzer, Horner, and 2 colleagues tried another technique. They dissolved away the minerals in a T-Rex fossil sample. What remained, they reported in Science, were structures that looked like millimeter-long blood vessels that flexed and stretched like real tissue when tugged by tiny tweezers. Huh. That's interesting. Tissue that flexes and gets pulled by tweezers. Still around after 75 million years. Anyway, I think you get the idea here. But let's do one more thing here at the end of this article. It says, Theodore agrees, quote, I do think cultural factors play into it, unquote. She says, noting that few women hold senior positions in dinosaur paleontology. Quote, I'm not saying the criticisms are off base, but they're more vitriolic than she deserves, unquote. She says Schweitzer should get enormous credit for pushing researchers to rethink their assumptions. Quote, even if she turns out to be wrong in some detail, she has stimulated a huge amount of work, unquote. So there you go. This last article is about this Schweitzer woman breaking boundaries and battling the male-dominated discipline of dinosaur paleontology. All right, and they completely skip over the most obvious situation, which is that dinosaurs are probably not millions of years old, but only 5,000 or so years old. And there you go. So I want to read a scripture here from 1 Timothy 6 and 20. Now, for those of you that don't know the Bible that well, this is the Apostle Paul when he was setting up churches according to how Christ wanted them set up. And the Apostle Paul wrote a letter to his underling, right, his up-and-coming apostle Timothy. And that's what the 1st and 2nd Timothy are about. They're letters from Paul to Timothy. And this is what he tells Timothy. He says, this is 1 Timothy 6 and 20. He says, O Timothy, keep that which is committed to thy trust, avoiding profane and vain babblings, and oppositions of science falsely so called. Okay, so even back in that day, 2,000 years ago, give or take, there were people who were using science so-called. So Paul is telling Timothy there's a difference between real science, which is about getting at the truth, and this science falsely so-called, right? Where they make automatic assumptions like, oh, these dinosaurs, there's you know, it's just truth that they lived 65 million years ago. Well, no, we don't know that. So I just thought I'd bring that out. This was going on back in the biblical times. This same kind of scientism, if you will, not real science.
Just ask this scientician. He'll tell you.
Anyway, thanks for sticking around. Please like and subscribe. This is your humble servant, Mr. Smith, and we'll see you on the next one.